Now let's talk about this idea of stewardship. Most of us think about time, talent, and treasure. That God has given us three things that we are to manage and steward on His behalf. But I would propose to you it's a little bit more than that. There's actually 5 areas. There's time, talent, and treasure, but also your understanding what God has given you to understand about not just His Word and who He is, how He ministers Himself into the earth, but also your relationships. What relationships do you have and how do you manage them? What relationships have come into your life? That could be your husband-wife relationship, that could be the relationship with your children, your business relationships, your friendships, the people that are around you, your immediate family. Each of those relationships have to be considered. And while you're stewarding each of those areas, you need to keep in the back of your mind a few points. 1, you don't own anything. None of this came to you except by God's sovereign generosity. Whether it's possession or understanding or relationship, God gave this to you, and He gave it to you to steward on His behalf. Next, all the components of generosity are there for you to manage. These are things that you are to manage on His behalf, not to possess. Even the idea that you own it is wrong thinking. You need to recognize that what you have is God's. He can keep it, He can remove it, He can ask you to share it in any direction He wants, and you need to recognize you have to be obedient to that because He's only allowed you to manage or steward those things. Also, you have to do it with wisdom and cautiously, that as you invest those opportunities or those things that God has given you, as you invest them, you have to think about how are they going to impact kingdom purposes. These are the principles of stewardship that I think so often we just don't think about. And yet they're deeply, deeply important to the Lord. Now, understanding those 5 areas, you've got to also understand that you're going to be entrusted and held accountable for what God's given you. I mentioned this earlier, but you also have to realize that you have to manage this in such a way that He may return at any moment and ask you, what have you done with the time, the talent, the treasure, the understanding, and the relationships that He has given you? And you'll be held accountable to how you manage each and every one of those. That accountability is not necessarily punishment, but it's things that the Bible refers to as rewards, gaining or losing rewards. And I know a lot of us will say, well, you know, that doesn't really matter too much whether I get a reward. I believe it will. I believe that the rewards that you will gain in heaven are going to make a difference to eternity and to you in that eternity. And no matter how long it takes, you need to be faithful, even unto death. And you're to remain hard at work, managing all that God has given you. This, as I say, is not an arrival, it's a pursuit. And so as you share, as you build, as you grow into others, this is something that you want to continually build in your life and in other people's lives around you. These are the meaningful things. These are the things that build into a life without reservation.